without further ado, we hear now the story of the other side of the telephone line. Juan Hoffmaister from the GCF Secretariat. You probably had late nights to stay up and be in communication with Miriam and her colleagues. I give you the floor. I don't know if you want to speak from here or if you have a presentation.
From here, if that's okay. I don't have a presentation. So yes, indeed, we on our side, and that often men probably staying staying up for conference calls until 11 p.m. or the such, and but it's definitely worth it to hear this type of stories. So let me make use of the time to perhaps walk through some of the guiding questions that have been shared with us. As we just heard from Miriam, the process and the modalities through which the GCF engage in this particular case obviously vary quite a lot. It isn't just about the accreditation process. It's actually something much more richer, and frankly, I will be the first one to say much more complex, and a complexity that we realize that's presenting challenges for entities seeking to be accredited, but that we are trying to simplify it as much as possible. So what were some of these challenges? First and foremost, I think it will be important to speak coming from the Secretariat to identify that there certainly have been a lot of internal constraints and a lot of staffing shortage in order to respond to the great degree of interest that we have had from entities, from the more than close to 200 entities that are currently in the accreditation pipeline, and certainly that has implications, and that certainly is reflected in the challenges that Miriam identified. But in addition to this, and going beyond the obvious, there have been other challenges, including that we have identified from our side, including sometimes in being able to find the necessary arrangements to provide the support that we have made available through the readiness program to entities. So, for example, in the case of Morocco, the NDA even sort of had asked for additional resources to be provided in the form of through readiness, but there have been a delay even in finding a delivery partner that was prepared to work with Morocco in this particular. In that particular step, and these type of challenges certainly add to the challenge, increase the delay in providing support. Coordination certainly is a challenge, and by coordination I mean not just coordination between the NDA and us, coordination across all the different. It's great to see so much interest. It's great to see so much desire to see action become reality, but that often means that you have a lot of actors that are wanting to have the attention of the NDA, a lot of actors that are sort of trying to get the attention of the accredited entities, and that is challenging, and that is something that thankfully we have seen Morocco now begin to do quite well. But in the general context, I think it's important to identify it. Having the one focal point is a very strong step, a very important first step, but it doesn't end there, and that's why the GCF has been trying to make additional resources available through the readiness program to strengthen the capacities of NDAs to be able to cope with this specific challenge. Now, in terms of the modalities and how we actually want to ensure country-drivenness and accessing climate finance, as I was just mentioning a moment ago, certainly one of the key features for this at the GCF is the establishment of the NDA, which is a sort of focal point in country. For long, some people sort of seem to, in the operational practice of the work that we do, seem to misunderstand the role of the NDA just as to be the the person that writes that non-objection letter before a project can go forward. When the reality is, and this is as part of the vision of what we're trying to support, that the role that these NDAs as ensuring country-drivenness and facilitating access to climate finance is much more richer than that. We believe that NDAs have a very important role in the strategic alignment and ensuring the strategic alignment of country priorities with the objectives of the fund, in identifying entities that they can work with, identifying what are the comparative advantage of these different entities, so that they understand very well who you're going to be working with to leverage those capacities. As I mentioned earlier, the very important role that NDAs play in the coordination, and then of course not to minimize this role, and it's the one of issuing the non-objection letter so that projects can be considered by the board. But please note that we actually see this almost as the last step rather than the only one. In terms of country-drivenness and accessing climate finance, one very important element I want to pick on the presentation that Miriam made is with regards to the strategic engagement through entity work programs, through country work programs, that is becoming a very important element at the fund. The way in which we go about articulating things like your NDCs, like your NAPs, like your TNAs, etc., into something that is actually actionable. It's one of the ongoing investments that the fund is making through the development of country programs that can articulate country priorities in more than just a list. And then, of course, lastly, it's the very important dimension that we are trying to support through a much stronger country dialogue between the countries and the GCF. And through this, the board has put aside a lot of time, a lot of resources, starting with the launch of the series of structured country dialogues that we have been organizing in different parts of the world, that are a space to bring together countries with entities, with the staff of the fund, with the board of the fund, and put them all in one room to begin to set, to allow countries to be in the driving seat of how they want to see, how they want to utilize the resources available at the GCF to bring the country priorities. I think that, and to wrap up, one point that I perhaps want to pick on, it's on the presentation that was made earlier before we went into this session, and is the importance of this element of complementarity and coherence. This is an area of work that the GCF has started to attach a lot of attention, a lot of importance to, and our board is set to consider an operational framework on this issue precisely of complementarity and coherence at the next board meeting in July. This issue is important not just because of the very, I think that the presentation that their colleague from WRI made makes a very good case for why this needs to happen. But the reality is that even at country level, and that perhaps was not as well captured in the presentation from WRI, at the country level, the importance of a coherent financial landscape to facilitate access to climate finance is probably even more paramount than just by at the global scale. The challenges of sometimes having to address different resources, different funds, everyone with their different criteria, with their different templates, having sometimes 4 or 5 different focal points in country. These are challenges that we are beginning to realize are much bigger than we thought. And the GCF is hoping to make a space to consider this well. So I will wrap up there. That's okay, Stefan. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan, for giving us the other side of the story. And then the third discussant is Silke from GIZ. As you heard in the presentation, GIZ was instrumental in supporting Morocco in its venture.